millennial girls, millennial women, they are busy ntse ba tswa le di-Gen Z, ba busy ba ntse ba utswa bana ba bana. They are busy dating 30-year-old guys, 20-year-old guys, 21-year-old guys, abo Kim Kardashian, abo Ayanda Tabete, letsang, abo Zoto Abantwana. Like, they out here literally dating men half their age, or men that are still like just coming out of cots and stuff, cradle snatchers. And I'm like, hey, that stuff is not going to do anything for you. So therefore they are creating enemies out of what? Gen Z girls that are out here vying for who? These men. That's what's good. So because of the fact that I know my lane and I know where I stand, and I have like cradle snatcher, some unfortunate Gen Z that has a crush on a Gen Z guy that I'm out here smooching on the street, I am easily embraced as a role model, as an older woman that younger women can look up to, because I am literally not going to be in these streets snatching their boyfriends and making them my husband, even though I'm 15 years type establishment thing. That's how I am. That's who I am. I'm still extremely responsible with the youth, and so for those reasons, be I married or not is irrelevant, because of the fact that I am a true inspiration. I am the real deal. Do you understand? In a way that these women would love to be but just are not. And why are they not that thing? Because they be out there looking at a Gen Z in the face, smiling at them. Little girl Lerato, you're so pretty. And then my boss did that to me. She was a Gen X, right? And I was a millennial, right? She was a Gen X, as in deep Gen X. Like, no way, not like she was older than me by maybe 12 years, right? And I was a millennial, and at the time I was 25 working in the company. She was 36 or 7 when I was 25, and she targeted my career. That's what these women do. They will smile at you and claim that they are looking out for you and your career, and they long that you should be good in life, be successful. Because women that compete like this with younger women, I kid you not, 9 times out of 10, or rather let me be a little bit more lenient, 7 times out of 10, the root cause is mistreatment by some dude in the past, or dudes, men treat them so harshly and are so unloving towards them that they end up taking it out on the youth. 7 to 8 times out of 10, they take it out on the youth. So they marry badly, and then they hate the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, coy disposition of young women and how hopeful they still are about the future. They absolutely loathe young women, and this loathing is invested in them by the fact that they're not loved. An unloved woman that gets married, the Bible says that the earth cannot bear up under her. The earth cannot deal under umfazi ochadayo ungathandwa indoda yakhona. And these dudes are unloving. They just change them like underwear. Do you understand? And they easily cheat. This dude, the one with my cousin, uchitsiko cousin yaka, with a woman living in the same complex just a few houses down. I mean, that's why Baba Biza Manyatsi, these people, opposite, wako next door, 2 houses down. I mean, a woman that's just 2 houses down from you, are just sleeping with your husband, and your husband then not caring that you found out, not caring that you're hurt, not caring that there's a child in the way, and then putting it out there even at family gatherings that, look, I actually like this Nyatsi, so I don't know why y'all are out here having an intervention where I'm concerned. I mean, that is the kind of stuff that will cause a woman to come out of that really bitter. So this cousin, Kimolorile, did I say what I'm saying? It's some kind of a ritual where she was out here gloating over the fact that she is soon to be a grandmother. Well, not soon to be a if she is, then we don't know yet, because her sons are not so old. Well, one of them is actually, he's in his early 20s. I don't even think it's early 20s. I think it's just 20 on the dot, man. Look, an 18-year-old can make a baby, a 15-year-old can make a baby, for crying out loud. So I don't know, but like, I had a dream of this cousin gloating over me, over the fact that you're basically a spinster, and you're 5 seconds away from even being a widower or whatever. Not a widower, sorry, but not a widow, because I'm not you're 5 seconds away from being just a wasted woman, like a spinster, essentially, like a never married woman, and you are 40 years old and you're still busy sticking to your little Christian thing that you're sticking to. When I am out here about to go and be a grandmother. Hey, Batong. Guys, I'm gonna go in the house and chat from there. I'm uncomfortable on the street because this here topic is still a very long winding one that is coming. And when I live at Tunjifre, that are just stopping at random spots on the street, making me very uncomfortable. So let me go in the house and finish this discussion, go charating. Not go charating, maybe in the bedroom. Well, that's in the jarata too, but you get my point. Yeah, and then tell you pretty much what the rest of it keep on. Sharp. What's up? I'm inside now, and yeah, anyway, yes, I was talking about this cousin and how it is that I got a dream. Like, y'all, I just need you to understand. Wait again, I dodged a bullet. Who in the world out here in these streets wants to be with a man ozokuhlisa engati uiliseya otlogojisa ngaro lese otlogojisa ngare or infant, a newborn baby that out here needs inestam like proper somebody akofalele pele, like, you know, a scoop of something nice just to control you. I might appear to be at a disadvantage, but in comparison to my family members, I am really, quite frankly, advantageous. Do you know that my family is made up of a majority of women? Abafazi. Most of my family members are women. So much so that there's only one particular uncle that everybody must go to. Magdingwa malobola, blah blah, wada wada. One man. Because everybody just keeps on popping girls. For a family that has majority women in it, for me to be this abandoned and this forsaken is frankly a travesty and an abomination. When all I do is lament against issues that plague Abafazi. My ministry is dedicated towards dealing with female, like issues that are of a female concern, right? My whole ministry is dedicated towards helping women. Given the amount of care that I have for women, the amount of apathy that women have rather slapped me with is frankly a travesty. It's a tragedy. If I died, it would indeed be the fault of men, but women would have let it happen. This country is plagued by gender-based violence. South Africa, that's where I'm from. And women are always lamenting about how it is that hashtag am I next blah blah, and then they watch a woman literally suffer, and they not only give her silent treatment but actively sabotage her so that she will end up a statistic in a gender-based violence country. They want me to be a GBV stat. They want me to be killed by a man, raped by a man, or beaten by a man. Any kind of statistic. And all the men that I have been lamenting are all up in my grill trying to take me for granted. Banjalo, ngabadlwenguli, ngababulali. They are the kinds of men to beat you to a pulp with no one coming for you. Because they trust that Bapadali Bondogama, and so your mother's not going to let you come back home. They trust that because they are paying for your sister's fees, your sister's not going to speak out against him. They trust that because they are just these beloved citizens of society and they've got like a million sycophants, that nobody's coming for you. Yeah, these are the kinds of men that encircle me. Do you understand? And they are determined to get me by any means necessary. They have been pulling all the stops to ascertain that I either end up with them or am dead, to a point where I single-handedly, as a woman, in my own unique capacity, have declared war on them to a point where the Lord has granted me confirmation that Ketloba Bolaya Kiliwan, I am going to end these men by myself, Ketloba Bolaya, because they have to die. They have got to be eliminated from the earth. Absent of their elimination, of which I, yes, me uniquely as Karabo, am gonna die. I am going to die at the hands of filthy men with the complacency or absenteeism of women if I do not prosper to kill them first. They've put me in a Hunger Games arena and have made this a trial by ordeal, where the whole deal of the game, the end of the game, is that it's kill or be killed, winner takes all. The last man standing is only standing because their heart is beating. They have declared that kind of war on me, and then they've also slapped me with an or else at the end. They have said, if you don't embrace me, this is going to be the end result. They have basically given me an ultimatum and said, Karabo, you claim to want to live. You are desirous of the continuing nature of the breath in your lungs. So, if you want to live, take me. I am prepared to rescue you from hanging on a noose and swinging on it left to right. As like a pendulum, like a metronome, left to right, you are out just swinging on a noose. I'm prepared to let you not have to go out like that, if you will be mine. Jola Nami, do you know that the war in Bosnia in 1993-4, around there, Bosnia/Herzegovina, that was basically that whole war. There was so much rape of women by soldiers at that time. There was so much rape by soldiers of women in that era because of the fact that nobody was coming for women. Police stations were closed. Basically, whatever happens in a country when there is a war. Okay, there was nobody coming for women. Men were being killed off in their droves, and women were being harbored and raped day and night by soldiers who had left their wives at home, who had imagined that these women are just as good as any to have sex with. But given that we are of the enemy camp, that's what's good. They're not going to easily just be with us. They're not going to sleep with us. So we're just going to take them kankani. We're going to kidnap their women and kill their men. And some of these women fell pregnant. Others got STDs, etc. It was like a whole epidemic. At the end of that war, rape was considered a crime against humanity. It was tabled as a crime against humanity by Amnesty International. So basically 1993, 1994, basically the mid-90s, the war in Bosnia/Herzegovina caused Amnesty International to list rape as among the crimes against humanity. Rape is now considered a war crime. If at all a soldier on the battlefield decides to rape a woman, on that day they are committing a war crime. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So for instance, today, if some Russian soldier decides to have a field day with a field day with a Ukrainian woman, they can be brought to some kind of an international court and tried for basically war crimes. Do you understand? Yeah. The thing that Hamas did on October 7, they call themselves militants, right? They call themselves soldiers, right? Yeah, well, we call them criminals because they went into the kibbutz, they went into the music festival, they grabbed women, and then they just had a field day with them. They raped them, sometimes even in public, and then flailed their bodies in the squares of their particular Gaza, showing what happens to Israeli people. They're absolutely nobody. Some of the women of which they raped, they killed, right? By shooting them multiple times in the genitalia, just to ascertain that this here is a finished off essential sexual assault, where it is that I'm first gonna have her, and then my gun is gonna have her. So they literally shooting them multiple times, localized in the genitalia of a woman. I mean, and then, right? Who is this? The United Nations, UN Women in particular. So the branch of the United Nations that is focused on women affairs. So things that relate or translate over to female equity, the empowerment of women, the component of the United Nations that is that is focused on women's concerns across the globe, comprehensively disregarded raising the fact that Hamas committed war crimes in this regard. Thanks to Amnesty International's declaration that this is a war crime, you don't get to do it. UN women refused to raise this as an issue. They refused to focus on it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because of the biases that they held in their hearts against Israel. They were pro-Palestine. They had a set agenda, and they ignored what their own charters have to say about how things in the world ought to be, such that several doctors and other women had to raise up and say, UN women, we are absolutely appalled by the fact that you have made a decision in the interest of proliferating your political ideology, and in standing with a terrorist organization, you have determined in the spirit of politics to disregard the rights of women. So I guess they're not women, if at all they're Jews, right? If at all they are chilling in the kibbutz at the music festival, if they're sitting in Israel, they don't qualify as women. Some of the women that were lambasted in this capacity, mind you, were Palestinian. Just that the Hamas randos did not know that they were Palestinian because they just so happened to be in the Israeli territory. So they were just looked at as just about blanket anything. Yeah, so basically a Palestinian woman, insofar as she passes for an Israeli woman, is good for rape until it is confirmed that she's Palestinian, in which case I guess maybe she gets an apology or whatever. UN women comprehensively disregarded the needs of women because Palestinian women were among those raped, however, because they were at the music festival or because they were Jews in Israel. This was ignored and disregarded. It evidenced that basically they are biased, they are partial. It matters where you're from. It matters what your perhaps skin color is, what your creed is. It matters who it is that you allege to as a woman, if at all you're going to be awarded any protections under Amnesty International or even the United Nations. Yeah, it matters. Because here it is that a Palestinian woman out here getting ransacked by the same Hamas, however, with Hamas not knowing that she is a Palestinian, do you understand what I'm saying, was lambasted with the same level of brutal force against her person, purely because she just so happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. That's what's good. So if at all you're going to make a decision to protect women, not just based on the fact that they have got, is it XX chromosomes? Just by mere virtue of the fact that they have got a particular chromosome set, the fact that they are born female, and so therefore they ought, by mere virtue of being born female, qualify for protections under these charters, under these rules, under these stipulations. However, you display that you have got biases and partialities in you, and your law is not blanket. There are some people who are exempt from the law, who are above the rule of law, because if at all you're perhaps a black woman, if at all you're perhaps an Israeli woman, if at all perhaps you're a Chinese woman, if just depending on whatever the political climate that people are charged against at that particular season are in, whatever it is that is the general overarching sentiment of a particular biased body of people, woe to you if you are a particular type of woman, right? So one day it could be that you're black, the other day it could be that you're Israeli, the other day it could be that you're American, the other day it could be that you're Brazilian, the other day it could be that you're Palestinian, the other day it could be, it's not about your XX chromosome. I stand correct. I believe the XX chromosome is the female one, or is it the XY, whatever, which one is the female chromosome set? Yeah, that ought to determine your rights to basically benefit under this charter. But right now it is your pigmentation that matters, where it is on the world you were born, where you live, that determines whether or not people are going to have your back. The very same crazy way of carrying oneself that the UN walked in against Israeli butchered women, bludgeoned, decimated, destroyed, absolutely mobbed, carnaged, murdered ever so violently, like brutalized women that were Israeli and sometimes Palestinian, sometimes South, like proper, they were just from everywhere across the world, okay? Yeah, but just so happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. UN women ignored even women that were from other countries because they were so heavy on into basically picking a bone with Israel. They are trying to sweep things under the carpet. So all of you women that are presently sitting outside of my life, ignoring the heinous acts against my person by filthy men that I now have declared war on and am determined to kill, and have been given prosperity by Christ in advance that this will indeed happen, what you have done is make like United Nations women and ignore the charter by Amnesty International that rape is a crime against humanity. When soldiers go to war, and because we are in a season of fighting, instead of bringing knives to a gun battle, you bring your manhood. That's what's good. Yeah. Instead of rightly putting such cases as these tabled at a tribunal to therefore try a war criminal, you are literally trying to let your Jabu go. You're trying to let your Pita go, your Mandla go. You're trying to let your Tamba go. You're trying to let your Stephen go. You're trying to let these freaks go. Well, I'm not. These salivating, rapey animals, I'm gonna end them myself. Because like United Nations women, you are hypocrites, women. You are absolute hypocrites. Do you understand? Because the very same things that plague me today if they were to plague your daughters, if they were also to plague maybe a woman that is your next door neighbor, perhaps if it was to come inside your own household and hit you, you would get inordinate support from a country that out here is apparently like fed up with gender-based violence. But you see, herein lies the challenge. The problem at this particular juncture is that not only am I a black woman, then that's why a whole bunch of white ladies are ignoring me, and that's why a whole bunch of white men are ignoring me. There is a nuance of race attached to me, right? But the biggest discrimination against my person is not even so much that I am black. More than anything, it is that I am Christian. It is that I am Christian, and it is that I've got particular principles, and it is that me saying no for an answer is based on my convictions in Christ. The separating factor in question here is literally largely my Christianity. Yes, it has to do with my what do you call this, every so often it has to do with my race, and maybe even at Tabaro you think I'm feisty, gatella, I should like humble myself to a bunch of psychopaths. And also given that I'm also always calling out witchcraft, right? Like I'm determined to call out witchcraft, so witches are like picking a bone with me because they don't like their kingdom being exposed. But even more than me being an apologist against sorcery, this here is a largely anti-Christ problem. That is ironic. Why? Because the grand majority, quite the voluptuous sum, frankly, of people who out here watch my content and are saboteurs of note are professing Christians. You call yourselves Christians just as in the same way that a whole chunk of women out here that were professing feminists were strangely content with the rape of just Israeli women. Like the very things that you are always placarding and standing for, according to you this time around, certain stuff is justified. When you kill a person at war, that is not called a war crime. Why? Because casualties happen in war. But when you rape a person as a weapon of war, when you weaponize your manhood against a woman, that does not qualify as a combat strategy. That is just a flat out freaking crime, according even to Amnesty International. And I'm out here calling out not even so much those like freakozoids that are trying to kill me for being a Christian in the spirit of their Satan, right? In the name of their Satan, because I get it, this is a battle between the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of darkness. Yeah, if this is a kingdom of darkness and kingdom of heaven, a war, just like perhaps the war between Hamas and the IDF, then let there be dead bodies delivered, and we will then not charge you with any kind of heinous war crimes, because casualties will be endured during a war. That's what's good, yeah. But when you are just having sex with women at willy because of the fact that, at will, just because of the fact that there's no police stations out there responding appropriately to them, there's nobody coming for them, basically you're making an observation that given that it is a time of war, okay, yeah, ain't nobody out there gonna be listening to a crying, screaming female that's been raped by 7 soldiers. So taking that for granted, you then decide to go and have a woman's body, have a field day with it. Thank God I'm carrying quite the gargantuan, chunky, like AK-47. I am weaponized. In and of myself, I am weaponized. Do you understand? I am a force to be reckoned with at their own peril. Thank God I am a warrior of a prolific note. Because of my warrior nature, I not only have got to basically shoot some men or punch them or throw an ICBM or some kind of a drone over their airspace. I not only have to do that, but I also have to wrestle with them, constantly pinning me down to the ground and spreading my legs apart as with pliers trying to penetrate me. I first have to fight off their attempted rape before I can shoot them dead. I've got a 2-pronged war at present that I am dealing with, and the first part of this war where I have to fight off men trying to have sex with me, that ought not be happening if at all this was a true spiritual war. If this was a true war, where it is that men against men, fighting for different camps, shooting others down, shooting others, and when people drop to the ground, casualties for war, nobody needs to go to any international courts speaking about war crimes of sorts. This time around, we are dealing with men trying to like literally have sex with me, and I've been lamenting about this for and women are standing back doing nothing, making like United Nations women. Look at you go. Look at you go. You see, the differentiator here, just like with Israel, is the fact that I'm Christian. The thing that made UN women disregard altogether what happened to the Israeli women was that they were Israeli. Yeah, some of whom were not even Israeli, but nonetheless, why? What were you doing, oh bad girl, being in the wrong part of town? That's what's good. Yeah, well, Lynn Naga ignore because I'm Christian, and my Christianity is the reason why I've dodged a whole bunch of bullets. So a bunch of crazy psychopathic females literally are abandoning me to be at the mercy of, like I said, deadbeat, toe-stubby men that are like acne vulgaris, men that are like a multi-car vehicle pile up on the freaking highway, men that are just violence and danger, oozing carnage, men that are the stuff of pus coming out from your side with you not being aware as to where that infection commenced, and now you're facing amputation, men that are a necrotizing fasciitis, men that are like fungal acne in dire need of a hard knock antifungal shampoo, men that are like garganji or conjunctivitis, like I don't care, give me a disease and they are it, men that are like cystic acne, men that are like getting brain-eating amoeba cholera, give me a disease, gonorrhea, the clap, trichomoniasis, just men that are pathogenic in society. I've been lamenting against them for a minute, and the only reason why I am surviving this pathogen that they are is because of Jesus, and that is the reason why you're killing me, because you have been infected by the trichomoniasis that they are. You've been infected by the HIV that they are. You have been infected by the HPV that they are. You've been infected by the conjunctivitis that they are, the chicken pox. You have been infected by the mumps, the measles that they are. You have been infected by the hookworm, the tapeworm, the intestinal tract inflammation that they are. You have been infected by the acne vulgaris that they are. You've been infected by the fungi, the spreading lethal gangrene in their core that they are. And so for those reasons, because of your infected nature, look at you, cease to be a woman for the day, because with this particular female, I'm just going to be a deadbeat hypocrite. Well, I'm here to let you guys know, women, that God has officially confirmed to me that I do not need to worry about the UN women general demeanor, disposition, ugly thing that you are as a bump in my night. Yeah, I don't need to worry about you anymore. Your apathy, your complacency, your la-di-da general disposition, I don't need you to do a different thing, because I am going to single-handedly murder. No, not murder. That is not the right word. I'm just going to kill your husbands because I'm combating them in Koba Fit. I am going to mow them to the ground because they had to die. Some of the husbands of which, and I've been saying this time and time again, did not need to die. The only reason why they're passing away is because nobody else is coming for me. The only reason why they gotta go is because nobody else is coming for me. The only reason why you're lackluster, like sliding into wannabe DMs into my space husband gotta go, is not because so much that he's a Satanist. He would have been given another 50 years to dwell these streets. He is being killed because I have no one else. He is going to die because God is choosing me over you. God is choosing me over them. God is choosing me over all of you. God is basically making a decision as to who to spare over here. God is the one who is like a Roman emperor out here looking at people in a Colosseum, about to make a decision as to what to do with the gladiator in the center of the Colosseum, whether or not to go or and the Lord God Almighty is very frankly saying of me, but your husband's y'all's people gotta die, because I will not survive if they live. Ke lateletse morago ke di suicide curses tsa banna a ke tsebe ba ikae. Ene bang tshosa ntho tse ke di bonang di a tshosa. Do you understand? So ke a le ka tlhaloganya basadi towe ha le latlhegelwa hore really it was not God's first prize to make you a widow or whatever. It was not God's first prize to make you a mom that has lost a son or whatever. It was not God's first prize to cause you to lose your brother, your dad, your uncle, your grandfather. It was not God's first prize. The guys just had to die because I literally had no one else. Y'all weren't coming through for me, were you, UN women? You looked at me as an Israeli woman, and so therefore apparently I have rape coming. Hi. Listen, this is what's good. Cousin Ena, this is what dream I got, like proper. This is even a thing that's going on is frankly a travesty and an abomination. Look how long it took for God to finally start dropping people like dominoes, hey? One after the other. 10 years. He gave you a decade. Ay, shem. Anyinzweli, guys. Dikele ditalona tsa bokete. Another king kana e wilelang na awiziking guys ke maswabi, and I've said this before. If indota eglisanga to oleseya, like a little bambino, If indoda izokudlisa engathi you are incapacitated and invalid in a bed, if at all a man is going to feed you like you are some kind of a vegetable on a hospital bed that is being fed through machines due to tabayauri you were in a really bad car accident with brain damage. If indoda izokudlisa kanjalo, kaze umkhalelani magashona. Your husband is a rapist. It's just that way. But if a man is out there going to war, hey? If a man is out there going to war and raping 5 women out there in the battlefield that belong to the country that your nation is making war with, and then comes home, bese ayolala nawe, Chiki, why ungakwatanga indaba yokuthi lenja le ikunikeza inqulaza? Why aren't you upset that one day you started itching in your nether regions because he gave you gonorrhea or whatever, super gonorrhea, that you needed to be put on IVs concerning because it was so freaking resistant to regular not prescription antibiotics that you had to be put on an IV? When your man is out, you're putting you on an IV because he gave you super freaking gonorrhea, mara omofogivile, and the only reason he gave you super gonorrhea is because 5 of his boys raped the same woman in a gang rape that was in the war zone. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then one of his boys transferred this gonorrhea into Lomfazlon. Bese umyenwako then got it. And then he just comes home azo bodlela on you. Atlofufulela wena. Next thing, everybody's out to taking antibiotics and you are priding yourself in the fact that at least, we escaped HIV at least, eh? But Jabu Temba, please don't do it again. I mean, when your husband this time does not come back home, I don't even know why you are just diving into a casket crying. I don't even know why ulela monna o feeling super gonorrhea, girl. I rescued you from HIV. Because at some point, one of these HIV positive boys, was gonna rape the same woman he was then gonna rape, and then he was then going to come home and bring HIV to you. Coupled with the fact that this is the sad and disquieting thing, they also sleep with each other in occult rituals. They literally have gay sex in occult rituals. So there's just like a plethora of things that could happen to you. Monkeypox, which is more readily transferred between gay men, or rather men who have sex with other men. Because I usually claim they're straight. That's what's good. Indoda ezokulahlela too in that kind of cesspool of disease. Aye. One day, maybe when you have passed away, perhaps given your life to Christ, you will thank God for killing your deadbeat husband, because without him getting out the way, you would never have gotten straight with the Lord. Your husbands are freaking psychopaths. Do you understand? Your boyfriends, largely millennials, also Gen X's, Gen Z's are starting to adopt rubbish. They're starting to adopt rubbish. But a whole bunch of my peers, and those bangathwalanga bahlala vele vele bavakashela abantu abathwasile amasangoma badula bajesa ebathung. Like I said, if a man otlo go feeda otlo go jesa nkare o leseya, what in the world are you crying for exactly? My ex-boyfriend mangandlise ngathi mina ngikuye brand spanking new baby on a 2 days old that can't even keep her neck straight because amathambo wam ayethu ukuqina. When you are at the point where usa like proper, you're still being fed from your mother's breast. When you are being treated ingati ulesia that is still being fed from your mother's breast by a man. The way abatlango control agadeng. Whether you live or die is based on him. Whether you stand or sit, whether you work or don't, whether you get a job promotion or not is based on him. Indoda ezohlala egdlisa ingati uyisiya. Askisi ke maswabi. I was in a relationship with a man and now you're killing me. Basadi, you're standing back watching me be killed, oh you and women, by the same men. I'm here to proudly announce, with a grandiose amount of gladness, that the Lord has officially confirmed to me that Yahya Sinwar is in the making. Yahya Sinwar is dead. Amen. Hey? The leader of Hamas, like they just keep dropping like dominoes. Abantu that thought that no one was coming for them. And the way that Uyaya passed away, it's not even like the IDF was gunning for him. They didn't even think he was there. Gun battles went out. Next thing, photos were doing their rounds on Twitter. Ultimately, it got confirmed. Yahya Sinwar is dead. I mean, just the other day, we were out talking about Raisi, and then there was Nasrallah, and all of Hezbollah, and now Yahya Sinwar is gone. The last remaining sort of kind of itch in the IDF step concerning what's going on in Gaza with Hamas, and that October 7 attack is out the way. Yahya Sinwar has been eliminated. And the Lord last night told me, honeybee, baby girl, my bumble, chickpea, what you see happening with Israel, you might as well typologically map it back as in hand to glove with what I'm doing with you. After I saw that announcement, Yahya Sinwar is dead, all I could think was, whoa, are we not on a roll? As not so much as the body of Christ, because the Jews are yet to embrace their Messiah, but as people of God, including the elect Jews and Israel, which is the apple of his eye. I was like, are we not on a roll? I said that in my own personal capacity. I was like, whoa, we're on a roll. Yahya Sinwar is gone. Look, the Lord does not delight in the death of him who dieth. When I found out about the death of Raisi, I low-key got heartbroken, even though he was the bane of Israel's existence. Yeah. But at the end of the day, he was a suffocating destroyer where Israel was concerned. Also, when I found out that Yahya Sinwar died, my heart low-key sank and I felt kind of sad, because he was a human being. But when you are a terrorist of that prolific nature and absent of you being eliminated, you would just continue to wreak havoc in some people's lives. You are what we now call a casualty for war. How many times was Yahya negotiated with by the IDF when he was told, release the hostages and we will let you go? What did Yahya respond by saying? He was like, no, let me go, but also we get to keep your hostages. Also, let go of all different kinds of thousands of millions of our terrorists from your prisons. Of course, Netanyahu was like, what in the world? You're slangaring. They were prepared to give him amnesty. They were prepared to let him go. They were prepared to not basically put a hit on his head, insofar as he would let the hostages go. But he wanted to hold on to the hostages. And here it is that literally just a month later, he was eliminated unexpectedly. Unexpectedly. Essentially, what I'm trying to explain to you is that before people die, even the most evil among them, there tends to be so many olive branches that God has given them all. Even the most prolific of terrorists against God's people has been awarded some kind of a chance to do differently, to do better. Israel is always responding in defensiveness against her enemies. Rarely ever will you find Israel out here just initiating an offensive strike and attack against somebody, right? It's always a reaction. It's always a reaction. It is always a reaction. I mean, even if you think about the decision that the United Nations made, remember, like Israel was basically formulated because of a unanimous decision made there at the United Nations or whatever, all those many years ago. And the agreement entered into upon re-establishing Israel as a state was that y'all need to basically have a two-state solution where you're going to have Palestine, a certain territory is going to belong to Palestine, and another territory is going to belong to Israel. Literally, Israel agreed to this, even though that was wrong. Nobody should divide the land of God. They were prepared to take anything at all insofar as they can have a country to call their own. After all, they just endured the Holocaust under Hitler, and they had nowhere to put their feet down because people treated them like trash. So now they had a land to call their own. But did the surrounding nations out here so vehemently not disagree? Did they not disagree? Did they not say, over our dead bodies, no way are you going to take this territory? All of it is Palestine, whatever that even means. Ancient Philistia, it's always been Canaan, it's always been Israel's. It's always been the peoples of God's territory. It was given to God long ago. Anyway, they lamented. They said, never over our dead body. The Jews are not going to get recovered to their land. Quancat, please give me time. The Jews are not going to get, and this cat. They said that they don't care that the Jews have just suffered like heinously under Hitler. Bottom line is, we don't want to give away whatever. So what did they do? They fought and they fought and they fought to try and basically undo the United Nations decision. They did everything in their power to undo the United Nations decision. So what did Israel do? They basically fought for what now is the region, like that Samaria region, that region, they fought for. They would have agreed to a two-state solution. The surrounding nations were like, no. They then made war with Israel, and Israel won in, I think it was the Yom Kippur War or whatever. They won a war to basically have pretty much the whole entire region that is now called Israel, including Gaza. They basically took it all now because of the fact that they were made war with. So they were entered into a diplomatic solution, and then their enemies fought and said, we want it all. So Israel's response was, okay, if now we are fighting with different stakes as two different sides, if the stakes are winner takes all, then I guess I'm gonna take it all. And that's exactly how now Israel has taken over what you now call Palestinian territory. Whatever, okay? Thanks to the Muslims out here fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. Ever since then, after losing that battle that God gave them victory over, the Lord was the one that was disquieted and unhappy with the decision at the United Nations to split the land. So he ascertained and raised it up in the heart of God's enemies around to fight Israel until they give Israel pretty much more land, or the rest of the land that they would have under normal circumstances been content to take in their stride. Israel got all that land, but what did the United Nations do? We said we want a two-state solution. This time around, Israel was like, wait again, we are going to cease to be a nation altogether if we keep on listening to you. We were prepared to do two-state. They then went into a different duel with us, all or nothing. We won all of it, and now they're still out here fighting and crying. Crying. They are taking our land, and that's why Palestine, or what they call Gaza, that Gaza Strip, that's why the United Nations, because the original deal was that Israel was to do a two-state solution, and they're trying to make it look as if though they're trying to make it look, as if though Israel has basically endured those Palestinians through what they call a suffocating occupation. Nah, this is not if somebody declares, if they refuse to give you peace, if they want to wipe you from the face of the earth altogether, literally it's just self-preserving to keep your troops in a region. It is self-preserving to keep your people in a region, because here it is that I wanted to live at peace with you, but you don't wanna. Yeah, the war here keeps on being declared on God's people. So all this time, the Palestinians have been fighting Israel after refusing to honor the very United Nations resolution to give Israel this particular portion of the land and them that particular portion of the land. They did it to themselves. And then they kept on harassing them until Israel had to indeed man those areas with soldiers to make sure that they don't threaten the safety and the peace of Israel. Fast forward a whole bunch of years down the line to the 90s now, Netanyahu had to fight in the 80s at the UN for Israel to be maintained as a nation state, a member state, because Ayatollah Khamenei was out here raising an issue against Israel on some they don't deserve to be a nation state, because look at how it is that they have basically suffocated, occupied Gaza. They've suffocated, occupied Samaria, and all these other places. You understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, very well. As a result of this to and from with the United Nations since the 1940s, as a result of this to and from, in the 90s, eventually Israel, I get it, they ended up pretty much occupying, I can't even call it an occupation. There was a soldier presence by Israel, including Israelis living in Gaza. In the 90s, they built schools, infrastructure, horticulture. They made it nice and green. They planted vineyards, blah blah, and they made it beautiful. It was literally a beautiful holiday resort with wonderful beaches. They fought and said, we don't want you here even in the slightest. What did Israel then do? They were like, okay, we will move out of the Gaza Strip. We will take even our soldiers out of the Gaza Strip. We will just extract ourselves altogether, and we will, with snot and trana, kicking and screaming, take out Israelis that have made their homes in Gaza. We're gonna take them out and tell them, if you are a Hebrew, if you are an Israeli, you gotta get out of Gaza, because we're giving it all to the Palestinian Authority. We're giving it all to Hamas. We're basically giving it to the Palestinians. And all of their greenhouses, basically they planted greenhouses, they built homes, schools, but they made it nice and beautiful, right? Because that's just what happens with God's people everywhere they're at. They made a decision that anything at all that was created by Israel, we don't want it. They were ridiculous. They need to get out. They kicked them out like a soccer ball, and then they burned down the greenhouses, the homes where they stayed. They tore it down on some, we don't need any of your hand-me-downs. Okay, whatever. We're gone though. if you want to go and decimate your own living area, if you want to go and defecate where you eat, whatever, it's yours though. No more Israeli soldier presence all up in your grill, even though plumbing comes from Israel. We are just giving you water. We basically, like, infrastructure Israel is out feeding Gaza, but they were like, ay suga, whatever. Like, you know, when you out here, like, ungrateful, like a spoiled brat of a child, whatever. That's what it is that they made a decision to do. Fine, go and burn all the greenhouses and have no appreciation. We'll take our Israelis and move them in. You know how they keep on moving, even from the northern border. Go Pila, Lebanon. They've moved them in because they just can't stay there because it's just such a volatile territory with so much gunfire always just being exchanged. Where, like, proper, there's just always war, and now they can't even live in their own homes. They keep on getting displaced. In order to make basically leg room or concession for crazy people that can never ever take an answer just lying down. They moved out, and then the Palestinians went and just absolutely defecated on where they ate. They ruined their own little strip. They allowed the Palestinian Authority to basically terrorize them. They also allowed Hamas to be leadership somewhere along the way. Yeah, and they were left alone for a minute. And just before October 7, they had even entered into some kind of a deal, some kind of an agreement of sorts with Hamas that they deliberately broke. And for months on, it appeared in advance to October 7, they were rather plotting and scheming literally at the exact same time that they were out here negotiating with Israel to cook up some kind of a peace treaty. And then they broke it by breaking into the music festival in the kibbutz. So years of being left alone with your Gaza Strip. Yeah, that's what's good. They then decide to go and break in to the kibbutz and the music festival and kill a whole bunch of people, alongside rape a whole bunch of women, and alongside put a whole bunch of babies in some ovens and turn them on. They just made a decision to do the most. They were given leg room to do whatever they want to do in Gaza, and then they built tunnels, underground tunnels, all strategically planning to essentially decimate, destroy, absolutely eliminate, annihilate Israel. They made themselves a proxy, an Iranian-backed proxy, one of the many in the region, against Israel. They made themselves a proxy, Iran, that is, you know, financed this whole crazy, yeah. And then they, like I said, broke into the kibbutz and did the most. And the music festival. I don't subscribe to Telegram because I don't want to see raw footage of people dead and disembodied and all different kinds of nasty stuff. I also, for those reasons, I'm not a big fan of Twitter, because on Twitter you can see people's dead bodies and how many fingers they lost. Right? I'm very sensitive that way. It's actually one of the biggest reasons why I didn't choose medicine for a profession. But on YouTube, the IDF, the channel, the IDF was allowed to release a video shortly after October 7 that showed what they imagined to be a light version of what you can see on Telegram and on Twitter, and it was still so disturbing that still to this day the imagery of what I saw is on my mind. They tried to blur out the images of people getting shot dead, but I couldn't help but go beyond the imagination, right? And one man was running away, and then he got shot while he was running, and he just died on the spot. The way he just fell with all the gumption of gravity, evidencing that there was no life left in him. The way that you fall, I mean, as a human being, when you fall, your senses kick in, your flight and fight response kicks in, your adrenaline rush kicks in, and then you react, right? You either you shield your body, like when somebody's out there beating you up. You cover your face like that. When you're about to fall head first, you use your hands to basically buffer the blow, you know, shock absorption. This man fell and just fell like that without using his hands or anything, evidencing that he was dead, he was gone by the time that he landed on the ground. And the thump, it hit me so hard that still to this day I can't help but think about that image. That was considered light by YouTube. Well, light enough to be found on YouTube, and it hurt me, it crushed my spirit, and I could not take in my stride what I saw. So I don't even know how those reporters that were shown the carnage, I don't know how they were able to recover from that. People who can always be in war zones, war correspondents, doctors. I don't know how anybody that saw the footage on Telegram alongside on Twitter I don't know how they were able to just move on and have breakfast the next day. I cannot look at images like this. The one on YouTube on its own was enough to really break the living daylights out of me. But you see, if people can easily cause that level of sorrow, I mean, goodness. One of the scenes, these people were busy shooting at a vehicle that was trying to drive through a boom gate to escape, and I saw the car just slow down because the person had, of course, removed their foot from the accelerator because they're now dead. And for me, it's like just the imagination. Even though all I saw was the aerial view, without seeing the bodies in the car, I just knew that a person had died, and that hurt me. That's what happened on October 7. Do you understand? That level of careless regard for human life and innocence, and also just basically declaring war on a place that has not had it coming. That is what people who are indwelt by Satan, when they're on a mission to fulfill whatever might be the devil's agenda, that's how calloused they get made. That's how calloused they get made. Do you understand? They develop such a coldness, they wax around their hearts. Like a thick layer of wax is formed around their hearts and they can no longer feel. So it's easy for them to rape and then shoot a woman multiple times in her genitalia because you don't regard her as a woman. When you've been demonically charged, when you've been made so incredibly possessed by demons, you can't even feel the exquisite sorrow of life exiting a human body. You cannot see the pain of death, especially when it is the death of somebody comprehensively innocent, when somebody has not had it coming. And Hamas is that kind of nasty, is that kind of nuisance and that kind of destructive. Do you understand? Yeah. And I've been dealing for a decade with people that are like Hamas. They're felt entitled to me hanging on a noose. I mean, I don't even know what people who find suicides experience. Okay? I can only speculate. There was a little girl. She was in high school, like maybe 16. Yeah, 16. She was like 16. And her parents, like basically her dad went to jail. The mom, I think, either died or abandoned them or whatever. And my mom took this little girl in. Her brother committed suicide because of all this falling apart of her family that happened, right? He was just a teenage boy in high school too. I can't recall if he was older or younger or if they were the same grade, if they were twins or what. But this child was taken in. She was basically musical chairs between her parents' friends, my mom of which was one of her parents' friends, right? And for a season, she lived at my mom's house when they were still staying at Reimsig. And this girl, of course, because she would visit my mom every so often, I would go home because I had my own apartment, right? I would visit home and she would be there and I would talk with her and whatnot. And one time when we were chatting, we somehow happened upon the whole conversation concerning her brother, her family, and she then told me that her brother committed suicide and then gave the details of what in the world happened. She found him. She came back from school one day and found him hanging by his school tie or whatever, because of what in the world was falling apart. Yes, I was like, whoa, I didn't even know what to tackle next. But I mean, when you find a dangling person that is gray or purple and their tongue is sticking out, maybe they've even messed their pants, they went incontinent at the point of death. When you find this and it's somebody close to you, I can't even begin to imagine the trauma. I don't know when you start to move on. Does this not follow you all your life? Is not this something that can literally cause a psychosis in and of itself in you? I don't know. It's the stuff of trauma. That's all I'm getting at, right? Very well. The fact that there are people that keep on committing spells against me to try and cause that trauma to come to my family. I don't understand it. Like, you want my sister to one day be walking around Kocharating and then just find my body hanging. Or my mom to wonder, guy, the past 24 hours, I saw Mboni over 2 days, and then break this door down only to find my gray body on the bed, or pick up kamungo or whatever, because sometimes days can go by where it is that we elude each other. So maybe she would be thinking for the first 2 or 3 days that whatever, she's just been quiet, only for her to one day just make a decision because, I don't know, my cat keeps on meowing from in here, or my cat keeps on scratching from outside and can't come in, and then find my dead body. Like, just the fact that there are people that are content to endure a family through that. I could not even fathom the chick whose brother killed himself, how she dealt with it, to a point where I was even scared to ask questions. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, trauma. And people just easily burn freaking candles and stab mirrors and look into calabashes and like all these rituals that they do to kill people. Not in my life in particular, they've been dedicated like no man's business to the plight of suicide. Because I am too Christian, too godly, too consecrated for them to succeed to stab a mirror and I die. Like, they can't kill me. They can't put me in a car accident, give me a heart attack. They've tried. They're failing abysmally. So now they have determined to violently depress me until eventually I have lost so much hope that I will commit suicide, causing my family to basically make an observation of a person in surveillance cameras getting killed by Hamas, trying to run away, and then just dropping because all life is left and their hands not even going forward as they drop, because that's what a living human being would do when they fall to the ground. Use their hands to buffer the blow. This time around, this man just fell flat on his face. Like, it was so devastating to watch that. And there are people who easily just shed that blood. Like, they so easily can do that. They are the ones behind the gun that is bringing a person to the ground flat with their noses. They are the ones that are out here happy to hang a person so that somebody else can find them dangling. Wait again, I don't know. Batong